Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start with this one. Do we first talk about the lap 1 chaos when Valtteri Bottas just rear-ended Lando Norris and caused a huge crash, followed up by another big crash caused by Lance Stroll? Do we start off talking about that great battle between Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton? Do we start off by talking about Williams, both Williams cars and the points? Do we talk about how Nicholas Latifi scored points before George Russell in a Williams? Or do we start by talking about Esteban Ocon winning a Formula One race? I don't know where to start. I really don't. I don't. That was a chaotic race. It was thrilling. It was fun. I loved it. But let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel if you are new. If you did not know this, I am a new Formula One fan trying to figure this thing out, watching the races. I've done a few live streams watching the races, but I want to do something like this where I talk about the race, post-race, give you my thoughts, but I also want to learn. I do not know everything about Formula One. I've only been a fan for about a year, so really I don't know much. So if I say something wrong, if there's something I ask a question about, feel free to tell me in the comments what I said wrong. Feel free to educate me about Formula One. That is why I'm doing this. I want your input. I want your knowledge. If you are a Formula One fan, a longtime Formula One fan who knows much more about it than I do, I want you to tell me in the comments so I can learn. But I also want to give my thoughts on the race, tell you guys how I think, and give you the perspective of a new Formula One fan, so maybe it could, I don't know, but you get the point. Let's talk about the actual race. Esteban Ocon wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. You read that title right. You are listening to this right. You're going to see the results. You're going to see that right. Ocon, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's his first career win with Alpine, whatever they're called. I did not expect, when I woke up at 7:30 this morning to get ready to turn on and watch the race, I did not expect this to happen. I expected Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, one of those guys to win. And if something chaotic happened, maybe the Ferrari wins. Maybe the McLaren wins. I don't know. But Ocon, Alpine, they won. So here's what happened. Lap 1, it's raining at the beginning of the race, first of all. It was supposed to rain for like 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes of the race, but the start happens. Lewis Hamilton gets a good start. He's able to get a big gap, so he's clear of the lead. He's got no problems. Bottas, though, gets a horrendous start. Gets passed by Verstappen immediately, passed by Perez. Lando Norris is already inside of him by the time they get to the end of the pit wall or something. Norris clears him. Bottas going into turn 1 goes bulldozer mode. Locks up the brakes, locks up the front tires, rear ends Lando Norris, who then crashes into both the Red Bulls and a couple other cars. And in the process of all this chaos happening, everyone's checking up, everyone's slowing down. Charles Leclerc gets rear-ended by Lance Stroll, gets wrecked by Lance Stroll, who hits Daniel Ricciardo, who goes spinning, and some other guys get involved somehow. And then after all this in the pit lane, Nikita Mazepin, he's just minding his own business and gets hit by, I think it was Kimi. Kimi might have hit him in the pit lane, so he gets taken out. So really, because of this wreck, 6 cars get taken out of this race, or 5 cars or something. Chaos, like on the first lap. Like Bottas just, it's like Toto called him and said, hey, Valtteri, execute Order 66 and take out the Red Bulls, and he took him out via the McLaren. It was chaotic. Obviously, Bottas didn't mean to do it. I mean, come on, guys. No one's going to intentionally wreck someone in Formula One, but it was a very bad mistake on Bottas's part, and it ruined a lot of days for a lot of drivers who needed points. Obviously, that majorly changed the championship, both the drivers and the constructors. Max Verstappen got some damage from this wreck, and it majorly impacted his race, and he ended up getting a point, but it ended up ruining his day, and it ruined Red Bull's day as well, as it took out the other Red Bull car of Sergio Perez. But obviously Bottas was out of the race as well, just destroyed his car, ruined Lando Norris's day, who's still, I think he's still 3rd in points as the driver standings, but it hurts McLaren in their race for 3rd in the constructor standings. But out of all of this, it helped everyone else. Like everyone else that wasn't involved, they moved up 10 positions because of all this chaos. Esteban Ocon went from 9th or something, or 8th at the beginning of the race, to 2nd in a matter of 1 corner. He was able to maneuver through the crash, maneuver through the chaos, and get up to 2nd behind Lewis Hamilton. Nicholas Latifi was in 6th. Yes, Nicholas Latifi was in 6th. Mick Schumacher was in the points for a bit in the Haas. The Haas has been awful this year. They were in the points for a minute. And then you go to the pit, we get a red flag. We're sitting there for about 20 minutes. So that takes out the factor of the rain. The rain's gone by this point. So that is no longer a factor. But it is a factor even though it's not there. Every single team came down the pits before the start to change onto racing tires to get the slicks on the car instead of those racing tire or the rain tires that are used for the rain, obviously. So they come on, I think, mediums. Mostly everyone put on the medium tires except for one guy. One driver did not pit. They stayed on those, what are they called, intermediates? The wet tires, the rain tires. And that was Lewis Hamilton. That's right, Lewis Hamilton, the guy going for the championship lead who did not get damaged in that crash, who was leading after that crash, decided to stay out. The team was telling him to stay out, I think, but the track was starting to dry up. The sun was out. Lewis Hamilton was like, I don't know about this call, guys. You know, it's not raining anymore. The track is drying off pretty well, and the sun is out. So do we really need to stay out on these rain tires when it's dry? The answer was no. Every single car decides to pit except for Lewis Hamilton. So on the grid, they did a standing start, and it was literally just Lewis Hamilton by himself. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like there's a picture of it. Lewis Hamilton is just sitting there by himself. I've only been a Formula One fan for 1 year, but in all the highlights I've watched and all the articles I've read, everything I've heard about Formula One, I've never seen that before where just one car is off a standing start. So that was unique. And then out of all this, the pit cycle comes out, and all these cars start coming out of the pits. And then the lineup shows up. And after Lewis pits, the lineup comes up. And the leader is Ocon. Second place, Vettel. And this was the highlight of the day. Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. Not George Russell, but Nicholas Latifi in the Williams was on the podium for about 20 laps. 20 out of the 70 laps, Nicholas Latifi was on a podium position. Third place. He eventually got passed. They pitted and they got passed through the pit cycle and stuff. And, you know, they got passed on track by other guys. But Nicholas Latifi, for 20 laps of his career, was on the podium with the Williams. And then, of course, they went on. Both the Williams actually got points today, which was very impressive. But the point being that all this chaos and this pit cycle and stuff ended up costing Lewis Hamilton severely, because if they would have just done what everyone else did, they would have had the lead, and honestly, they probably would have ran away and won this thing by a mile. But instead, they did a different strategy. They get stuck in traffic. They have difficulty passing some cars. Then everyone else is pitting. They pit late, try to get some fresher tires. They have to battle Fernando Alonso for, I think at the time it was 4th. And Alonso did an amazing job at holding off his former teammate Lewis Hamilton. I mean, it was a great battle for quite a few laps there. Hamilton just couldn't get around Alonso, and even when he tried to, Alonso was hanging tough with him. Finally, after a while, Lewis Hamilton was able to pass Fernando Alonso. Alonso hasn't raced since, I want to say 2018. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but 2018, I think that's the last time he was in F1. Since then, he's done some other things, but decided to come back to F1 to race for Alpine. And he looked amazing today. He was top 5 most of the day. I think he led a couple laps in the pit cycle, but he was a great teammate today, because that ended up locking up the win for Ocon, because Lewis Hamilton in those last 5 laps or whatever, after he got by Alonso, he was able to get past Carlos Sainz pretty quickly after that in the Ferrari, and he was closing rapidly. He was about 10 seconds behind with, I want to say, 5 to go after he passed Sainz. On the last lap, he was only 2 seconds behind the leader, which was Ocon, and he was only a second behind Vettel for second. So if let's say Alonso gets past 3 laps earlier, this might be a different story. We might be talking about a Lewis Hamilton victory. So Fernando Alonso was the ultimate teammate today. He was the ultimate teammate in that sense, but also he was helping himself. He was trying to get himself the best position, the most points for his team. So he was doing everything he needed to for himself, but it also helped his teammate out a lot, because Lewis Hamilton, it slowed down Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton was not able to get up there in time to win the race. But Ocon gets the win. I think they said on the broadcast that's the first time since Prost that a French driver won for a French manufacturer because, obviously last year, or they have a Renault engine, but, this Alpine team used to be Renault. Last year they were the yellow and black car. They were the Renault team. And then they rebranded over the offseason. They kept Ocon in that car. Daniel Ricciardo left for McLaren. And Fernando Alonso came out of, I don't know if he said retirement, but he came back to Formula One. He is now in that other car. And they have looked pretty good this year. They've had some pretty solid runs throughout the year. But this one is by far their best performance. They get the win at Hungary. And they also get a 5th place finish with Fernando Alonso. Led a lot of laps today. I want to say every lap except for lap 1, which was what Lewis Hamilton led. So great day by that team. Great win. A great story that you love to see. Ocon seems like a pretty likable guy. I feel like that's just a great story there. Everyone's happy for him. The French driver who's been in Formula One for a few years now. I think he used to race for Racing Points. I don't know about before that, but he's been solid. No wins prior to this, I don't think, but a big deal to get himself a win in the Hungarian Grand Prix here in 2021. But it also today was a major championship shakeup. Coming into the day, Max Verstappen was leading the Drivers' Championship by 8 points. Red Bull was leading the Constructors by 4 points. So they did not have a comfortable lead coming into today, but they had something that they think, or I don't know if they thought this, but that was manageable, that they could perhaps still keep that lead after today. But after that first turn, first lap incident, it all got ruined. Sergio Perez was out of the race. Bottas was out of the race, so that kind of evened out. But Lewis Hamilton got out of that cleanly. Max Verstappen had damage, and it affected him all day long. He was hitting the right side of the car, I want to say, and then also had some issues with the under the car, I think they said. So that slowed him down significantly, made it more difficult for him to move up through the field, for him to pass and get through some of these slower cars. Had struggles throughout the day just because of that damage from that first lap, it seemed like. So Verstappen, that majorly impacted him, and now he is behind in both the drivers' standings, and then Red Bull is now behind in the constructors. I think the gap in the drivers' standings, Lewis Hamilton is now the championship leader by 6 points. As for the constructors, I don't know the number, but Mercedes is leading. But what a major turn of events for the championship hunt. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, going into the British Grand Prix, Red Bull had all the momentum in the world. They had taken the pole position from Lewis Hamilton in the sprint qualifying. Verstappen had. They had a pretty decent lead in both the drivers and the constructors championship. Perez had won a race up to this point. They were looking really good. They were on a 4 or 5 race win streak. And then that turn happens. Max Verstappen crashes after contact with Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez struggles, and since then, it has been a disaster for them. That happens in Great Britain, and then today in Hungary, just more chaos and bad things happen. Both cars involved in the lap 1 incident. Perez not able to continue. Verstappen took him up till 5 to go to get that 1 point, and but technically, Red Bull did take a point away from Mercedes because Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, which is a Red Bull kind of affiliate team, I think, was able to take that point away from Mercedes by getting the fastest lap. So, but still, disaster for Red Bull. They were looking so good just a couple weeks ago, but all of a sudden they are now second in the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen and in the Constructors' Championship. So a complete 180, not a complete 180, but a major change in the momentum, in the standings for the points for the Formula One championships on the constructors' side, and then also the driver's side. Let's look at the results of this race, talk about each driver, how their days went, how they got where they were. Some of these are going to be the same answer, but let's talk about it. Esteban Ocon wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. I didn't see that coming. I really did not see that coming. Ocon, if you told me he was going to get points, I would have said yes. I 100% believe that. He's gotten points this season. He's been able to run in the points at times. So, no, that wouldn't have been a surprise. He had a good qualifying session. He was able to get up in the top 10 in the qualifying session. So, yeah, cool. That wasn't surprising if he got points. Podium, I would have said, okay, that's a little bit surprising, but still good for him. I'd believe it. But if you told me that he would win and lead like 65 out of the 70 laps today, I would have said no way. I would have said no way he leads more than 10 laps, and no way he wins the race. But he won the race, and he dominated it. In lap sled, Vettel, who finished second, had a great run at him a few times, tried to close the gap, tried to make some moves, but just couldn't get it done. But Ocon, what a tremendous drive by him. I mean, he was never able to really pull away from Vettel by like a lot. He wasn't able to pull away to like a 5-second lead, a 10-second lead. He was really in that 1 to 3 second gap most of the race. So if Ocon made one mistake, he locks up going into the corner one time. He goes a little bit wide. He has a little slip at the back end of the car. Vettel would have been there. Vettel would have been side by side. Vettel could have passed him. So Ocon just really drove a tremendous race today. He did everything he needed to do. One mistake and it could have changed the outcome of this race, but Ocon drove a perfect race today. He did everything he needed to do, and he is now a Formula One Grand Prix winner. So congratulations to him, Alpine, that whole team. They've had a lot going on the last year or so with their branding change, some driver changes, and it's paid off for them. Obviously, they've done great this year, it seems like, and especially today, they've done amazing, got themselves a win. So great day for them, great win for that team. I'm really happy for him. I hope you're happy for him too. But that's a really feel-good story, if you ask me, for Ocon and that team. But really happy for him. Good job, Ocon. Woo. Second place, Sebastian Vettel ties his season-high finish. I think he also got second. I think it was at Baku. But a really good day for him as well. He was second all day long ever since the beginning of the race. After that whole lap 1 fiasco and Lewis Hamilton staying out, he was able to get into second, and once again, just like I said earlier, he was able to close in on Ocon. He was able to get into that DRS zone, but could not make a move on him, could not get side by side, could not make the pass. He made a couple aggressive moves, but just could not get it done today. Second place finish, a really good finish for the Aston Martin, but so close to the win, and it's not like Ocon was miles better than them today. So he thinks that Vettel after the race was saying he thought they had a shot at Ocon, thinking that they were just as quick. So he was a little upset that they didn't get the win, but still a second place result is a really good finish for that team. Third place on the podium, Lewis Hamilton. Man, I thought Lewis Hamilton was going to come back and win. I was like, no, Lewis, please just let us have a fun winner. Now that I think about it, is this the first time that Mercedes or Red Bull hasn't won this year? Verstappen and Hamilton both have like 5 wins or something. And then Perez has a win. Bottas has a win. I think Ocon is the first non-Mercedes Red Bull to win. Sorry about getting sidetracked, but I just thought of that. Anyways, Hamilton gets a podium. A major comeback after how today started. Obviously took the lead, or had the lead all of lap 1, but with that safety car, with that red flag, and with their pit decision, it just messed it up. It messed it all up. And, he was able to come back and get a podium finish, get third place, and gain a lot of points on Max Verstappen and take the championship lead. So did everything he needed to do since that lap 1 mistake, or lap 2 mistake with the pit call. So Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, while it did look like an ugly start to the day with the Bottas crash and then the pit call right there, they made up for it, and they end up with a podium finish, and they take both the constructors lead and the championship lead in terms of winner, like the drivers. Words are tough sometimes. Fourth place, Carlos Sainz, good day for him. He crashed in Q2 yesterday, but was able to rally back and avoid the crash, and he was up to in the top 6 or 7 after that crash, and he ends up with a 4th place finish. A good day for Ferrari. Their other car crashed out today, but they were able, I think they're 3rd in the constructors now, I want to say. If not, they're close, but good day for Ferrari today, for Carlos Sainz, that is. Obviously, Leclerc crashed out early, so darn for them, but good day for Sainz. Really good day for him. His second, I want to say it's his second best result of the year, because he got a podium at Monaco. 5th place, Fernando Alonso. Incredible drive today. Won the Driver of the Day award and was well deserved. He was having a great battle there with Lewis Hamilton. Had a great, that was just so fun to watch. He was able to stay up in the top 5. He led a couple laps through the pit cycle, and he just had a really good day and gets a really good points day as well. Really good points day for Alpine. So really good teammate there, as I said earlier in this video, but amazing day for Fernando Alonso. Just turned 40 this past week, I think. So he's still got it. That's what I'm going to say there. The 2-time champion still got it. 6th place, Pierre Gasly, plus the extra point for the fastest lap. Good solid day for him. I think he started 5th, ends up with a 6th place finish. 7th, Yuki Tsunoda. Both AlphaTauris up there in the points today. Good solid day for both Yuki and Pierre Gasly. And then here it is, boys. Nicholas Latifi in 8th place. I love Nicholas Latifi, guys. Like, I don't know why it is, but I just love Nicholas Latifi. He just seems like such a lovable person. Like, he's just the kind of guy you just want to sit down and, like, watch TV with. Like, he just seems like such an enjoyable fellow. I don't know what else to say about him, but, man, I gotta say it. I gotta say it. I have to say it. Nicholas Latifi scored points in a Williams before George Russell did. George Russell is extremely hyped up. Like, this guy's expected to be in the Mercedes at some point. Maybe it's next year replacing Bottas, but George Russell is a young star. He has a lot of expectations about what he's going to do in his career once he gets a quality car. The Williams is not that great, and he has been so close to getting points for Williams so many times. He's been so close. Like, there have been so many races he has been in the points. They've had a mechanical failure. He's been in the points. He's been passed with like 3 to go by Alonso. He has been so close so many times. He did get points last year at the Sakir Grand Prix, but that was when he replaced Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes when Lewis Hamilton had COVID. So that wasn't for Williams. Today, George Russell finally got his points for Williams, but it was behind his teammate Nicholas Latifi. Latifi finishes 8th and gets 4 points. Nicholas Latifi has 4 points this season. He was running in the podium at one point. I am so proud of Nicholas Latifi. I love you, Nicholas Latifi. You are incredible. 9th place, George Russell finally gets his first points for Williams. After that lap 1 fiasco, you got to be thinking, would George Russell have done that in Mercedes? I don't know. It doesn't matter, though. Nicholas Latifi's going to Mercedes next year and winning the championship. That was a joke, by the way. That was a joke. 10th place, Max Verstappen gets 1 point. We have talked about his disastrous day. The lap 1 incident, the lap 1 crash that he was involved in, was not able to fully recover, but he does get 1 point out of the day. In 10th place, was able to pass, who was it? Daniel Ricciardo, I think, late in this race, and ends up finishing 10th, getting that 1 point, a very important point. Every point counts with how close this championship has been. Kimi Räikkönen finishes 11th, had a 10-second time penalty after contact on pit road with Mazepin. So other than that, decent day for them. 12th place, Daniel Ricciardo, just not a great weekend for them. Was a missed Q3 just by, I think it was like less than a 100th of a second or something, but missed Q3 by just a bit. Ended up 11th in qualifying, was involved in that lap 1 incident, and ends up finishing just outside the points. 13th, Mick Schumacher. Oh my gosh, he was in the points for a good bit today. Had a really good battle with Max Verstappen at one point, but 13th. That's a really good result for Haas. Good for Mick. I like Mick Schumacher, man. He seems like a decent guy. And then obviously, but yeah. Good for you, Mick Schumacher. I'm happy for you. 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi, the last car on track. And then we get to the DNFs. Mazepin technically finished 15th. So, wow. 16th, Lando Norris. 17th, Valtteri Bottas. 17th, Sergio Perez. 18th, wait, hold on. I am awful at math. 15th, Mazepin. 16th, Norris. 17th, Bottas. 18th, Perez. 19th, Leclerc. 20th, Lance Stroll. Yeah, that's your finishing results. This video has gone on long enough. I feel like I've talked too much, but what a chaotic race. Chaotic race might be an understatement. That was thrilling. I mean, if I had to rate this thing on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10. No questions asked. A new winner, a surprise winner, that gets bonus points. But in terms of the racing itself, I had a blast watching this race today. Having different guys up front, different guys in the points, battling for different points positions. Like both Williams cars were in the points. Schumacher was fighting for a points position at one point. Kimi was in the points for a bit. We had all these different teams, all these different drivers fighting for points positions, championship implications involved. And obviously some great battles like Alonso and Hamilton. At times, Vettel versus Ocon. So I just thoroughly enjoyed this race today. 10 out of 10 from me. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If I said anything wrong, I'm sorry. I'm still learning this Formula 1 thing. Let me know in the comments if I messed anything up. Yeah, just let me know in the comments what you thought. What did you think of the race? What did you think of Ocon's win? Are you happy for Ocon? Are you happy for Alpine as a team? Vettel's run, what did you think of that? What did you think of the Williams run? Latifi and Russell. But let me know in the comments what you thought of this race. How happy were you? How excited were you? Was it a good race? Just let me know in the comments. But wow, I love that race. Have a great rest of your day.